The linens slipped from Rosalind's hands and hit the mud. She did not bend to pick them up. She stood very still, staring at her father, and for a long moment she did not breathe at all. "Say it again," she whispered. "Say it slow so I know I heard you right." Thomas Hale could not look at her. He turned his hat over and over in his hands. "You are to marry Jedediah Crow, Sela's Crow's boy. It is settled, Rosalind. I have no way out of it." The whole yard seemed to go quiet, even the chickens, even the wind. Then Rosalind did something nobody watching would have guessed. She laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was sharp and short, like a stick snapping. Her father flinched at the sound of it. Mrs. Higgins, hanging wash in the next yard, stopped her work and turned to stare, her mouth falling open. "You lost the store," Rosalind said, still with that strange laugh caught in her voice. "And now you sell me instead, and you cannot even look me in the eye while you do it. Well, at least look at me now, Papa. At least give me that much." Thomas Hale slowly raised his head. His eyes were wet. "Rosalind." "No." She held up her hand, and it did not shake, though everything in her chest was shaking. "Do not say sorry. Sorry does not pay a debt. Sorry does not unsell a daughter." She bent down at last, picked up the wet, muddy linens from the ground, and shook them out hard once, twice, snapping the water from them like she was snapping something else loose from inside her own heart. "I will hang these first. Then I will go inside and pack what is mine. A woman ought to enter her own wedding with clean linens and a straight back. I will give this town nothing else to whisper about." Mrs. Higgins, still staring over the fence, said to her husband later that evening that she had never seen the like of it. "That girl's whole world fell down around her ears," she said, "and she stood there and hung out the wash like it was any old Tuesday. Cold as a fish, that one." But it was not cold. Rosalind's hands trembled so badly that night, alone in her room, that she could hardly unbutton her own dress. She cried until the pillow was soaked through. She thought of running. She thought of hiding in the hills until the whole arrangement was forgotten. But a woman alone on the frontier with no money and no kin had nowhere safe to run to, and she knew it. So she did the only thing left to a girl with no power and a debt not her own. She held her back straight, finished her chores, and let the town believe whatever it wished to believe about her, while inside, quietly, her whole heart broke. That first night, Rosalind lay stiff on the narrow bed, waiting for the worst. She had heard whispers from married women in town, about what a husband was owed, about doors that did not stay shut. She kept her eyes open in the dark and did not move. But Jedediah did not come near the bed. He pulled a wool blanket from the shelf, folded it twice, and laid it on the floor by the hearth. "You take the bed," he said. "I'll sleep here. It's warm by the fire anyhow." Rosalind stared at him through the dim light. "Why?" she whispered before she could stop herself. He thought on it a long moment, the way he thought on most things, slow and careful. "Because you're scared," he said. "I don't want you scared of me. I want you to like me someday. Maybe, if that's all right." Then he rolled over and was asleep within minutes, breathing deep and even, like a child with nothing on his conscience at all. Rosalind lay awake a long while after that, turning his plain words over and over in her mind. The days that followed brought small surprises, one after another. Jedediah rose before the sun to do his chores, but he always left the fire burning warm first, so she would not wake to cold. He came in from the fields one evening with a fistful of wildflowers, yellow and purple, held clumsy in his big rough hands, and set them on the table without a word, like he was afraid to make too much of it. At breakfast he never ordered. He asked, "Would you like eggs or would you rather not? I can learn to cook better if you show me how." The town called him simple, and Rosalind had believed it too, once, but she began to see it different. He was not slow because his mind was empty. He was slow because he weighed every word for kindness before he let it out into the world. Then one evening a storm rolled in fast and mean, turning the sky green, and the cattle screamed in the yard. Rosalind froze at the window, her whole body cold with old fear. Jedediah came in soaked from the barn, saw her shaking, and without a word wrapped his own coat around her shoulders. He did not touch her more than that. He sat a careful distance away and stayed until the shaking stopped and the storm passed. "I won't let nothing hurt you," he said quietly. "Not the storm, not nothing. That's my job now and I take it serious." Rosalind looked at him then, truly looked, and for the first time since her wedding day she did not feel afraid. She felt something else entirely, something warm and unfamiliar, something she was not yet brave enough to name out loud. Rosalind heard the wagon before she saw it, and her stomach turned cold. Her father climbed down slow, his face thin and gray, his hat wrung near to pieces in his hands. "Rosalind," he begged, "I need help. I borrowed from Colton Briggs. He says if I don't pay, he'll come for the store again. Maybe worse this time, please. Ask your husband for money." That night she told Jedediah everything, her voice shaking, bracing herself for anger, for blame, the way many men would have given it. Instead he listened, quiet and careful until she finished. "Your pa did wrong," he said at last. "But he's still your pa, you're scared for him, that's not foolish. That's just love even when love's hard to give." He paused. "I got money saved, not much, but I'll give what I can, not only for his sake, for yours. Your peace matters to me." But Colton Briggs was not a man satisfied with part payment. He rode out one bitter morning with two rough men beside him, waving false papers, claiming Thomas Hale had used Jedediah's own land as payment in his gambling, and that the ranch now belonged to Briggs. Rosalind watched from the window, her heart hammering, certain the town had been right, certain her husband's gentle slowness would be no match for men so quick and cruel. She was wrong. Jedediah walked out and stood tall in the yard, unmoving, and when he spoke his voice carried no fear in it at all. "This is my land," he said plainly. 10 years of my own sweat behind it. The real papers are in the house, signed by the county clerk. Ride to town and check them yourself if you doubt me, but you won't take what's mine with lies, not today." Briggs faltered. He was not used to a man so calm, so unmoved by threats. Word soon reached him that the sheriff, alerted by a neighboring rancher, was already riding out to look into the false papers. Briggs and his men turned their horses and fled before the sheriff ever arrived. The moment the danger passed, Rosalind ran to Jedediah, her fear finally cracking open into something else. "You could have been killed," she said, her voice breaking. "I wasn't scared," he said simply. "I had you to protect, and this land. Fear don't have much room in a heart that's full up with something worth protecting." Without thinking, without any fear left in her at all, Rosalind stepped forward and put her arms around him tight. And for the first time since their wedding day, Jedediah wrapped his strong arms around her too, holding her like something precious, something he had waited a long while to finally hold. Spring came to Willow Creek, and the fear that once ruled Rosalind's heart had melted away like the last snow on the hills. In its place grew something she never thought a forced marriage could give her: real love. Patient, steady, hard-won love for a man the town called simple, but who she now knew was only ever simply good. She began working the ranch beside him, learning to ride, to mend fences, to tend cattle in the wind and dust. He taught her slow and patient, never once laughing at her mistakes, always warm with his praise when she got something right. In turn, she sat with him each evening by the fire and helped him read better from an old storybook, sounding out the hard words together. His mind was not slow, she had come to understand. It was careful. He thought deep before he ever spoke or acted, unlike so many quick-tongued men of that hard land. One evening, as the sun went down gold over the wide plains, she found him sitting on the porch step, watching the horizon the way he often did, like the world still filled him with quiet wonder. She sat close beside him now, closer than fear had ever once allowed, and rested her head on his shoulder. "Jedediah," she said softly, "do you remember what you said to me our wedding night? That you wanted me to like you someday?" "I remember," he said, a small smile touching his sun-browned face. "I think on it often." "I don't just like you anymore," she whispered. I love you, Jedediah Crow, truly, completely. He turned to her, and his eyes, the same eyes the town once called simple, shone bright with a joy too big for his careful, slow words to hold. I loved you first, he said quietly. Since you looked at me at that altar scared as a wild bird, I promised myself I'd be patient. I'd wait. I'd earn it slow if slow was what it took. I didn't need you to love me back right away. I just needed you safe and happy for as long as it took. Rosalind cried then, but they were not tears of fear anymore. They were tears of a heart healed all the way through. They had married for debt, forced together by trouble neither of them chose. But what grew between them was no debt at all. It was a rich, patient love, built slow and steady, the same way Jedediah built his stone chimney, one stone at a time, season after season, until it stood strong enough to weather any storm that land could send. And in Willow Creek, folks stopped whispering that Jedediah Crow was simple. Instead, they began to say something else, something told for years after, that the gentlest hearts often love the deepest, and the marriages people fear the most can become the very ones that save them.